Ryan Mitchell stood transfixed in his home office, his gaze locked upon the framed photograph on his desk. It was a memento of their 10th wedding anniversary, capturing Brenda's seemingly genuine, radiant smile as her hand rested on his chest. They stood in Cabo, their children, Ashley and Tyler, flanking them, a tableau of the perfect American family. At 45, Ryan had forged an empire from nothing, his construction company, Mitchell Enterprises, now dominating the commercial building sector across 3 states. Yet his family remained blissfully ignorant that his success wasn't solely born of arduous labor and legitimate contracts. By the way, please like and subscribe if you enjoy stories like this. His military background in special operations had plunged him into a clandestine network, a shadowy world of individuals who could make problems vanish, unearth information others couldn't, and who owed him formidable favors from darker days overseas. The bitter irony gnawed at him. While he meticulously constructed their dream life, his wife meticulously built her own, with someone else. Ryan's phone vibrated, a terse text from his surveillance contact. Ghost. Package ready for pickup. You're not going to like what's in it. He'd enlisted Ghost 3 weeks prior, alerted by Brenda's unsettling behavioral shifts. The late nights, the sudden gym membership, the perplexing new interest in expensive lingerie that never graced their bedroom. 22 years of marriage had honed his ability to decipher his wife's tells, and now she was broadcasting loud and clear. Brenda had been Ashley's high school guidance counselor when they first met. Ryan, 31, newly discharged from the military, was laying the groundwork for his first construction project, a modest office complex. She was 25, beautiful, and ostensibly captivated by his ambition. What he learned too late was that Brenda Mitchell, née Thompson, had always been a master of calculation. Her impoverished upbringing in trailer parks, her constant shuttling between reluctant relatives, had forged her. Her marriage to Ryan wasn't love. It was her meticulously crafted escape route to the country club life she had always craved. Their son Tyler, now 21 and in his senior year of college, had inherited Brenda's calculating nature, but utterly lacked her subtlety. Ashley, 19 and studying pre-law, possessed her mother's striking beauty, but had developed an entitled streak that grated against Ryan's working-class sensibilities. Both children had matured believing wealth manifested magically, never comprehending the blood and sacrifice underpinning their privileged existence. Ryan moved toward his safe, concealed behind a false wall in his office. Inside lay documents that painted a starkly different narrative than the one his family knew. Classified military commendations, bank account numbers in offshore havens, contact lists for individuals whose services defied public advertisement, and, most critically, detailed psychological profiles he'd meticulously compiled on every member of his family over the years. This habit, a relic from his intelligence days, had become second nature. He'd always known this day might dawn. People reveal their true nature when tested, and Ryan had been unconsciously testing his family for years. Small betrayals, whispered lies, moments when convenience trumped loyalty. He'd filed them all away, praying he'd never need to reference them. The house phone chimed. Brenda's voice, artificially cheerful, drifted from the kitchen as she spoke to someone. Ryan activated the recording device he'd installed weeks ago. "Yes, I can't wait either. Ryan will be gone all day Thursday for that site inspection in Denver. We'll finally have the whole afternoon." Her laugh was light, carefree, the same laugh that had captivated him 22 years prior. "Todd, you know I can't keep doing this. We need to make a decision soon." Todd Garrison. Ryan had suspected, but hearing the name confirmed it. Todd lived 4 houses down, married to the quiet Linda Garrison with their 3 young children. He was a software engineer who worked from home, granting him ample opportunities to slip away unnoticed. Ryan had even helped Todd move in 5 years ago, recommending him for the neighborhood watch committee. The conversation continued. "I'm organizing a Labor Day barbecue. All of Ryan's family will be there. Perfect timing for what we discussed. Everyone thinks you're just the helpful neighbor." Ryan disconnected the feed and made a call. "Ghost, I need everything you can dig up on Todd Garrison, and I mean everything. Financial records, browse history, family background. I also need surveillance on my house starting tomorrow. How deep you want me to go, boss? Deep enough to bury him. After hanging up, Ryan pulled out a legal pad and began writing. At the top, he scrawled, Labor Day, the last barbecue. Below it, he listed names. His brother Kevin, who'd borrowed $200,000 for his failing restaurant and never repaid a dime. His sister Lisa, who'd stolen their deceased mother's jewelry and sold it for drug money. His parents, who'd never supported his military service but eagerly embraced the wealth it eventually provided. His children, who viewed him as an ATM but hadn't called on his birthday. And at the heart of it all, Brenda and Todd, orchestrating something for Labor Day, something that involved everyone believing he was just the helpful neighbor. Ryan had survived 3 tours in Afghanistan by never underestimating his enemies and never showing mercy to those who betrayed their trust. His family was about to discover that the man who'd provided for them all these years wasn't the harmless contractor they thought they knew. He opened his laptop and began researching property purchases in states with no extradition treaties. If his family wanted to vote him out, he'd ensure they understood the true cost of their decision. The foundation of lies they'd all built their lives on was about to crumble, and Ryan Mitchell intended to control every moment of the collapse. Labor Day dawned under cloudless skies, promising unseasonably warm weather. Ryan stood at his bedroom window, observing Todd Garrison across the street, loading cases of beer into his truck. The man remained utterly oblivious that he'd been under relentless surveillance for the past week, unaware that Ryan now possessed intimate knowledge of his gambling debts, his clandestine credit cards, and the life insurance policy he'd recently tripled on his wife, Linda. Ghost's intelligence package had been devastatingly thorough. Todd wasn't merely engaging in a tawdry affair with Brenda. He was drowning in online gambling debts and had been systematically skimming money from his freelance clients. More intriguing was Todd's psychological profile. A narcissist with sociopathic tendencies who'd engaged in 3 previous affairs, each dissolving once boredom set in or a more advantageous target emerged. Ryan's phone displayed a text from Ashley. Dad, bringing my new boyfriend Cole to the barbecue. Hope that's okay. He smiled grimly. Ashley's boyfriend was, in reality, 28, married, and a lower-level drug dealer she'd encountered at college parties. Ryan's contacts had provided extensive documentation of Cole's activities, including photographs of Ashley actively participating in transactions. His daughter had inherited her mother's unfortunate talent for choosing the wrong man. The morning unfolded in careful preparation. Ryan had strategically placed micro cameras throughout the garage and backyard, all feeding into a live stream that Ghost was monitoring. More importantly, he'd spent the past week meticulously establishing alibis and paper trails that would prove crucial for the unfolding drama. At noon, the family began to descend. Kevin arrived first, already visibly inebriated, grumbling about his ex-wife's demands for increased alimony. Lisa followed, accompanied by her latest boyfriend, a tattooed man named Snake, whose eyes continuously raked over Ryan's possessions with an unnerving, obvious calculation. His parents pulled up in the Mercedes Ryan had bought them, his mother immediately criticizing Brenda's menu choices, while his father settled into the most expensive patio chair without so much as acknowledging its cost. Tyler emerged from the house, home from college for the weekend, his eyes red-rimmed and betraying the telltale signs of cocaine use. He'd secretly dropped out of pre-med, opting instead for a music career funded entirely by Ryan's money. The boy embraced his father with practiced fake enthusiasm before immediately asking for a small loan to cover studio time. As the afternoon wore on, Ryan observed his family with the detached clinical assessment of an intelligence operative. They moved through his house as if it were their own, helping themselves to his liquor, openly criticizing his choices and discussing his money as if he were a ghost in his own home. Todd arrived precisely at 3E, playing the role of the helpful neighbor to perfection. Ryan, great to see you. Linda's feeling under the weather, so she sent me with her famous potato salad. Todd's handshake was firm, his smile genuine, the practiced facade of a master liar. Todd, I appreciate you coming. Brenda's been looking forward to your contribution to the party. The subtle emphasis wasn't lost on Todd, whose smile flickered momentarily, but the man remained confident in his deception, believing Ryan was the oblivious husband, providing the perfect stage for his affair. At 5 long, Brenda approached Ryan with studied casualness. "Honey, can you get the special sauce from the garage? I left it on the workbench." Ryan had been waiting for this moment for 6 agonizing hours. "Of course, sweetheart. Anything for the family." He walked toward the garage, acutely aware that 23 pairs of eyes were watching him depart. The garage was precisely as he'd arranged it. His suitcases, conspicuously packed, stood near the door. The note lay carefully on his workbench, impossible to miss. "We voted. You're out. New locks go on at 8 p.m. Ryan picked up the note, ensuring the hidden cameras captured his reaction. He'd penned it himself the night before, mimicking Brenda's handwriting flawlessly, a skill honed during psychological operations training. Through the window, he watched his entire family in the backyard. Brenda was speaking animatedly to the gathered crowd. One by one, hands began to rise in agreement. Kevin, Lisa, his parents, Tyler, Ashley, even Todd, playing his role as concerned neighbor. They were voting him out of his own life. Ryan pulled out his phone and dialed Ghost. "Execute Phase 2. "Copy that, boss. How's it feel to watch your own funeral?" "Educational." Ryan had one more call to make. Detective Ray Hutchinson answered on the second ring. "Ryan, what's up?" "Ray, I need to report a break-in at my house. Multiple perpetrators, possibly armed. I'm hiding in the garage, but I think they're planning something serious. Can you get units here fast?" "Jesus, Ryan, stay put. We're rolling." Ray was one of 3 police contacts Ryan had cultivated over the years through charitable donations and mutual favors. What Ray didn't know was that Ryan had already transferred ownership of the house to a shell corporation that morning, rendering his family's occupation technically illegal. As sirens wailed in the distance, Ryan walked to his truck deliberately parked in the driveway. His real suitcases, the ones that truly mattered, were already loaded in the back, alongside portable hard drives containing financial records, family surveillance footage, and detailed revenge plans he'd been meticulously crafting for weeks. His phone buzzed with the first of what would become 44 missed calls from Patricia Wells, Brenda's divorce lawyer. She was about to discover that her client had just made the most expensive mistake of her life. Ryan started his truck and drove away from the house he'd built, leaving behind a family who had never truly understood they were living in a carefully constructed trap. They'd voted him out, but they'd forgotten one crucial detail. Ryan Mitchell had always been several moves ahead of everyone else. The game was just beginning. Ryan checked into the Riverside Hotel under a false identity, paying cash for a lavish suite that overlooked the city he'd helped forge. From his window, he could discern 3 Mitchell Enterprises construction sites, their towering cranes reaching skyward like steel monuments to his indomitable legacy. By this time tomorrow, his family would begin to grasp the full chilling scope of their monumental miscalculation. His phone glowed with 44 missed calls from Patricia Wells. Ryan poured himself a generous measure of whiskey and returned her call. "Mr. Mitchell, thank God. We need to talk immediately. There's been a serious misunderstanding." "Ms. Wells?" Ryan's voice carried the cold, unyielding authority he'd honed during enemy interrogations. "Allow me to save us both time. Your client orchestrated an illegal eviction attempt in front of 23 witnesses. She is currently occupying property that was transferred out of my name this morning. The police possess documentation of her breaking and entering charges." A profound silence stretched across the line. That's not possible. Mrs. Mitchell owns half of all marital assets." "Mrs. Mitchell owns half of nothing. Check your facts, counselor. The house, the cars, the bank accounts, the business, all restructured through legitimate legal channels over the past 6 months. Your client committed adultery, which nullifies her claim to community property under our prenuptial agreement." "Prenuptial agreement? There was no—" "Page 47 of the marriage license application. Brenda signed it in blue ink on March 15, 2002. I have video evidence of the signing ceremony, along with 2 witnesses who are still alive and willing to testify. I suggest you review your case file more carefully." Ryan ended the call and activated his secure laptop. Ghost's team had been relentlessly busy while the barbecue unfolded. Bank accounts had been frozen, credit cards canceled, and automatic payments suspended. Brenda would awaken tomorrow morning to the stark, brutal realization that her privileged life had evaporated overnight. But financial warfare was merely the opening gambit. His phone rang. Tyler's name illuminated the screen. "Dad, what the hell is going on?" Mom's crying. "The police arrested Uncle Kevin for public intoxication and there are lawyers calling the house." "Tyler, you voted me out. Congratulations. You got exactly what you wanted." "We didn't vote you out, Dad. Mom said you'd already decided to leave and we were just acknowledging it. She said you'd been planning this for months." Ryan laughed, a sound utterly devoid of warmth. "Your mother has many talents, son. Truth-telling isn't one of them. But since you're calling, let me share some truth with you. The college tuition you've been spending on cocaine and studio time? Cut off as of this morning. The trust fund set up for your 25th birthday? Dissolved. The car in your name? Repossessed by Dawn." "You can't do that. That's my money." "It was never your money, Tyler. It was my generosity, which you confused with entitlement. Learn the difference." The next call came from Ashley, her voice trembling with barely suppressed tears. "Daddy, please come home. Mom says it's all a mistake, that you're having some kind of breakdown. Cole says we should call the police and report you missing." "Ashley, your boyfriend Cole is married with 2 children in Phoenix. He's also dealing methamphetamines to college students, which makes you an accessory to federal drug crimes. I suggest you distance yourself from him immediately." "How do you've been spying on us." "I've been protecting this family for 22 years. You confused protection with weakness. Another expensive lesson you're about to learn." Ryan's final call of the evening was to Linda Garrison. She answered on the first ring, her voice thick with confusion and profound betrayal. "Mr. Mitchell, I just found out about Todd and your wife. I'm so sorry. I had no idea." "Linda, I need you to listen carefully. Your husband has been embezzling money from his clients to cover gambling debts. Tomorrow morning, evidence of his crimes will be delivered to the FBI. You have approximately 12 hours to protect yourself and your children. Take them to your sister's house in Oklahoma. Don't pack anything that can be traced." "I don't understand. Why are you helping me?" "Because you're innocent and I don't punish innocent people." After ending the call, Ryan opened a bottle of 30-year-old Macallan, a rare gift from a grateful client, and began reviewing Phase 3 of his revenge plan. Ghost's team had been extraordinarily thorough. They'd documented every financial transgression, every personal betrayal, every moment of weakness his family had exhibited over the years. But Ryan's true revenge wouldn't be legal or financial, it would be profoundly personal. At 11:47 p.m., his secure email chimed with a message from Ghost. "Package delivered. Todd's about to have the worst morning of his life." Ryan smiled and raised his glass to the city lights below. His family had voted him out of their lives, convinced he was just a soft, middle-aged contractor, lulled by suburban complacency. They'd forgotten that Ryan Mitchell had once been the man the military called when other operators faltered, when situations demanded someone willing to cross lines others wouldn't approach. Tomorrow, they would remember. Ryan awoke at 5 a.m., a habit from his military days that suburban life had never quite broken. His hotel suite was hushed, save for the gentle hum of the air conditioning and the distant rumble of early morning traffic. He had slept deeply for the first time in months. The immense weight of pretense finally lifted from his shoulders. His phone displayed 17 new messages, all variations of panic and confusion from family members grappling with their new brutal reality. He deleted them unread. At 6:15 a.m., Ryan's secure laptop chimed with an encrypted message from Ghost. "Todd's package delivered. FBI in motion. Your move, boss." Ryan opened his surveillance feed to observe Todd Garrison's morning routine. The man sat at his kitchen table, laptop open, when 3 black SUVs abruptly pulled into his driveway. FBI agents clad in tactical gear surrounded the house as Todd's coffee mug slipped from his trembling hands. The devastating beauty of Todd's destruction lay in its undeniable authenticity. Ghost hadn't fabricated evidence. He'd simply meticulously compiled and presented Todd's actual crimes in a format that demanded immediate federal attention: wire fraud, identity theft, tax evasion, and client embezzlement, years of criminal activity Todd had assumed would remain hidden in digital shadows. Ryan's phone rang. Brenda's name blazed on the screen. "Ryan, you have to stop this. Todd's been arrested. There are FBI agents at our house asking questions about you. What did you do?" "I didn't do anything to Todd, Brenda. His crimes are entirely his own creation. I simply ensured they received appropriate attention." "This is insane. You're destroying people's lives over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Ryan's voice carried the crushing weight of 22 years of accumulated betrayal. "Is that what you call 18 months of adultery? Is that what you call organizing my family to vote me out of my own life?" "We weren't voting you out. I was trying to surprise you with an intervention. Everyone's been worried about your behavior, your paranoia. Todd was helping me organize—" "Brenda, stop lying. I have recordings." The silence stretched across the connection until Brenda's meticulously constructed facade finally cracked. "You've been recording our conversations? That's illegal wiretapping in our state." "Only one party needs to consent to recording. I consented to recording my own conversations. Everything I've done is perfectly legal." "Legal doesn't make it right, Ryan. We've been married for 22 years. I made a mistake, but that doesn't justify this nuclear response." Ryan looked out his hotel window at the city he'd helped shape. "Brenda, you didn't make a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. You made a series of calculated decisions over 18 months. You chose to betray our marriage. You chose to involve our children in your deception. You chose to turn my family against me. Now you get to live with the consequences of those choices. The children don't deserve this." "The children are adults who chose their side yesterday. Ashley's currently being questioned about her drug-dealing boyfriend. Tyler's discovering that trust funds evaporate when trustees withdraw cooperation. They're learning that actions have consequences, a lesson I should have taught them years ago." At 8:30 a.m., Ryan drove to Mitchell Enterprises headquarters, a 40-story glass monument he'd built to house his construction empire. His employees greeted him with respectful nods, blissfully unaware their boss was in the midst of orchestrating the systematic destruction of his own family. In his executive office, Ryan activated secure communications and placed a call to Marcus King, his attorney and oldest friend from his military days. Marcus had left special operations to become a lawyer specializing in asset protection for high-net-worth clients who operated in morally gray legal areas. "Ryan, I've been expecting your call. Ghost briefed me on the situation. Your asset protection structures are solid, but we need to discuss next steps." "Marcus, I want you to execute Protocol 7. Silence. Protocol 7 was their code for complete financial warfare, a legal strategy they developed but never implemented. It involved systematically dismantling opponents through legitimate but utterly ruthless financial pressure. "Ryan, are you certain? Protocol 7 is designed for enemy combatants, not family members." "My family declared themselves enemy combatants yesterday. I'm simply responding to their declaration. Understood?" "Understood. Protocol 7 is now active. Your family will receive legal notifications beginning at noon today." "Ryan, there's no coming back from this level of escalation." "Good." Ryan's next call was to Detective Ray Hutchinson. "Ray, I need to report additional criminal activity. My wife and her accomplice have been conducting financial fraud using my business accounts. I have documentation." "Jesus, Ryan, what's happening with your family?" "The truth is happening, Ray, for the first time in 22 years. At 11:47 a.m., Ryan received confirmation that Linda Garrison and her children had safely reached Oklahoma. Todd's arrest had provided the perfect cover she needed to escape with their assets intact. Unlike Ryan's family, Linda had listened when warned and acted decisively to protect herself. Ryan's final morning task was reviewing the psychological profiles Ghost had compiled on each family member. Kevin was deeply mired in alcoholism and mounting debt, rendering him exquisitely vulnerable to pressure. Lisa's drug addiction created glaring legal vulnerabilities that could be exploited with surgical precision. His parents' precarious medical conditions necessitated expensive treatments that depended entirely on Ryan's financial support. But his children presented the most intriguing challenges. Ashley's rebellious streak masked a profound, almost desperate need for paternal approval, a weakness that could be weaponized. Tyler's artistic pretensions hid genuine talent, now corrupted by a corrosive sense of entitlement, another pressure point that could be targeted with chilling precision. By noon, Protocol 7 would be fully active. Legal papers would be served. Financial accounts would be frozen. The privileged life his family had built on Ryan's sheer generosity would begin its controlled, devastating collapse. Ryan poured himself a fresh cup of coffee and settled in to watch his family discover that voting him out had been the most expensive decision of their lives. They'd forgotten that the man providing their comfortable existence had once been trained to destroy enemies who threatened his mission. Now they were the mission, and Ryan Mitchell never failed to complete his objectives. By 2 p.m., Ryan's surveillance feed screamed chaos erupting across his former life. Ashley had been released from questioning but placed under federal surveillance due to her boyfriend's perilous drug activities. Tyler stood outside his apartment complex, embroiled in a futile argument with repo men who were meticulously loading his BMW onto a flatbed truck. Brenda sat in their lawyer's office, her face a mask of disbelief, staring at legal documents that meticulously detailed the complete dissolution of her financial security. Ghost's voice crackled through Ryan's earpiece. "Boss, your family's making moves. Brenda's hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on you. Ashley's boyfriend Cole is planning something stupid. My sources say he's talking about teaching you a lesson, and Tyler's trying to liquidate assets you don't know he has." "What assets?" "Apparently your son's been selling your construction equipment on the side. Small stuff, but it adds up. He's used the money to fund his music career and his nose candy habit." Ryan felt a familiar, chilling coldness settle over him, the same emotional shutdown that had allowed him to interrogate captured insurgents without so much as flinching. His son wasn't just spoiled, he was a thief. "Ghost, I want complete digital surveillance on all family members, every phone call, every text message, every financial transaction, and I want to know more about this Cole character. If he's planning something against me, I need to know before he acts." "Already on it. Cole's real name is Coleman Rhodes. He's got outstanding warrants in 3 states, mostly drug-related. Your daughter's been helping him launder money through fake art purchases. Girl's got talent for crime, probably inherited from you." Ryan's secure phone buzzed with a call from Marcus King. "Ryan, we have complications. Your wife's new attorney is Harold Blackstone. He's calling in favors with judges you've done business with. Apparently, Brenda is claiming you've had a psychological break and demanding a competency hearing." "Interesting strategy. What's your assessment?" "Dangerous. Blackstone has connections, and he's good at painting wealthy men as unstable when they protect their assets from unfaithful wives. He's already filed motions questioning your mental state and demanding immediate asset freezes." Ryan walked to his office window, looking down at the construction site where his crews were building another commercial complex. "Marcus, it's time to release the insurance policy." "Which insurance policy?" "The one I've been building for 22 years. Every conversation, every betrayal, every crime my family committed thinking I wasn't paying attention. It's time they learned I documented everything." "Ryan, that level of surveillance on your own family, it might play poorly in court." "They won't get to court. They'll fold when they see what I have." That evening, Ryan returned to his hotel suite to find Ghost waiting in the shadows, a tall, lean man with pale eyes and scars on his hands that spoke of violence survived rather than inflicted. "We need to talk, boss. Your family's escalating faster than anticipated." Ghost activated a laptop and pulled up surveillance footage. The screen showed Cole Rhodes meeting with 2 burly men outside a downtown bar. Money changed hands, along with what appeared to be photographs. Cole's hired muscle, local boys with records for assault and breaking and entering. They've got photos of your hotel, your office building, your usual routes. Cole's paying them to send you a message. Ryan studied the faces on screen. How much is he paying them? $10,000. Half up front, half after they put you in the hospital. And Cole's getting this money from your daughter. Ashley liquidated her jewelry collection and emptied her savings account. She thinks she's helping her boyfriend protect the family from your supposed breakdown. Ryan felt something deep inside him fracture. His daughter, the little girl who used to climb onto his lap and ask him to read bedtime stories, was funding an attack against him. The betrayal was so complete, so absolute, that it achieved a kind of mathematical perfection. Ghost, I want those 2 men arrested tonight. Plant evidence if necessary. Already done. They'll be picked up within the hour on weapons charges. Cole will lose his money and his protection. Good. Now, I want you to arrange a meeting with my family, all of them, tomorrow night. Neutral location. Boss, that's tactically inadvisable. Your son's been talking about bringing a gun to any confrontation. Your brother Kevin's desperate enough to try something stupid. This could get ugly fast. Ryan smiled and Ghost instinctively stepped backward. It was the expression Ryan had worn in Afghanistan when preparing to interrogate high-value targets, a look of predatory anticipation that had terrified even the most hardened enemy combatants. Ghost, ugly is exactly what I want. It's time my family understood who they're really dealing with. And should they dare to refuse, the very air they breathe will turn to poison. For with the dawn, a chilling revelation will arrive. Videos, each frame a testament to their every whispered conversation, every calculated betrayal, every deceitful glance of the past 6 months, every moment they foolishly believed my vigilance had wavered. They will confront the stark truth. For years I have meticulously forged a case against them. Their transgressions, their profound disloyalty, all documented with the chilling patience of a man who comprehends that vengeance is a dish best served with absolute, unforgiving precision. Ghost's slow nod was a silent acknowledgement. You want them to know you've been watching? My voice, a low rumble, pierced the silence. No, I want them to realize they've been living in my web for years, mistaking the silken threads for their own desperate safety nets. Tomorrow night, they'll finally grasp the terrifying truth. They have been prey all along. Ryan turned back to the window, the city lights below flickering like distant conquered stars. His family, in their arrogant delusion, believed they had cast him out, voted him into oblivion. Instead, they had, with their own hands, sealed themselves into a trap, a meticulously constructed labyrinth, 22 years in the making. Tomorrow, the spider would finally reveal himself to the flies. The abandoned warehouse, a silent sentinel on the industrial district's fringes, was one of Ryan's earliest triumphs, a project he had discreetly retained ownership of through a labyrinth of shell companies. At precisely 8 p.m., it was destined to host the most pivotal and quite possibly the final family meeting in the annals of the Mitchell clan. Ryan arrived early, moving through the cavernous space with a practiced predatory grace. Ghost's team had woven a complex tapestry of surveillance equipment and secure exit routes, but more crucially, they had unleashed an unseen barrier, potent electronic jamming fields, ensuring that what transpired within these walls would forever remain beyond the reach of recording devices. The night's grim ballet would exist solely in memory, etched into the minds of those present. At 7:45 p.m., the first tremors of arrival rippled through the parking lot. Kevin's rusted pickup coughed to a halt, followed by Lisa's borrowed Honda. His parents' Mercedes, a gift from Ryan for which no gratitude was ever offered, arrived with unsettling punctuality. Tyler's rental, a stark contrast to his currently impounded BMW, appeared next. Finally, Brenda's sedan pulled into the lot, Ashley a pale specter in the passenger seat. Ryan watched through the one-way glass, a silent judge presiding over their hesitant approach. Their movements were a morbid dance of dread, each step a reluctant surrender to an undeniable pull. They knew they were walking into a snare, yet a chilling compulsion propelled them forward. Good. Fear would make them receptive to education. The warehouse interior was a stark tableau, a rectangular expanse of cold concrete floors, punctuated by a semicircle of unforgiving metal folding chairs. On a solitary table, Ryan had meticulously arranged the fruits of his 22-year vigil, a mountain of evidence, video recordings capturing their whispered conspiracies, audio files preserving their venomous slanders, financial documents detailing their countless pilferings, and photographs, each a silent testament to their systematic betrayal of his trust. As his family settled into their seats, Ryan emerged from the shadows, a figure cloaked in black tactical clothing, a chilling echo of his combat days in Afghanistan, attire designed for work of the most unforgiving kind. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice devoid of warmth. "I thought it was time we had an honest conversation about the state of our family." Brenda, ever the actress, was the first to speak, her voice trembling with false confidence. "Ryan, we're all worried about you. This paranoia, this surveillance of your own family, it's not healthy. We can get you help." With a silent flick of his thumb, Ryan activated a tablet and placed it on the table. The screen blazed to life, displaying surveillance footage of Brenda and Todd, intertwined in the Mitchell family bed, their whispered conversation about Ryan's elimination horrifyingly clear. "Brenda," he interjected, his voice cutting through her pretense, "let's begin with honesty. You've been conducting an affair for 18 months. You've poisoned our children's minds against me with insidious lies about my mental state. And yesterday's intervention, a carefully constructed charade to mask an illegal eviction. These, Brenda, are facts, not paranoia." Ashley, her young face flushing crimson with impotent rage, surged to her feet. "Dad, you've been spying on us. That's sick. That's not what fathers do." Ryan pressed another button. New footage materialized. Ashley, clandestine meetings with Cole Rhodes, illicit packages changing hands, money laundered through a web of fabricated art purchases. "Ashley," Ryan countered, his gaze unwavering, "fathers protect their families. I've been meticulously documenting criminal activity to shield you from the harsh hand of prosecution. Regrettably, you've chosen to plunge deeper into federal crimes. As of this very morning, you are under direct FBI surveillance as a potential drug trafficking accomplice." Tyler's bitter laugh echoed through the tense silence. "This is insane, Dad. You've lost your mind. We're your family, not enemy combatants." "Tyler," Ryan's voice, though calm, held the weight of an executioner's pronouncement, "you've stolen approximately $47,000 worth of my construction equipment over the past 2 years. The proceeds? They've fueled your cocaine habit and funded a phantom music career you've only ever pretended to pursue. You dropped out of college 6 months ago, yet you continued to accept tuition payments, knowing I believed they were for your education." The tablet now displayed a damning mosaic. Bank records, surveillance footage of Tyler brazenly loading stolen equipment onto trucks, and university documents confirming his withdrawal. Kevin, swaying precariously from the alcohol that fogged his mind, struggled to his feet. "Ryan, you can't talk to your kids like this. Family is family, no matter what mistakes." "Kevin," Ryan cut him off, his words precise and unforgiving, "you've borrowed $215,000 from me over the past decade. You've repaid precisely zero. Your restaurant, a monument to your ineptitude, crumbled because you were systematically pilfering funds to fuel your gambling and alcohol addictions. You never once inquired about repayment, assuming in your boundless arrogance that family money was free money." One by one, Ryan unspooled the damning evidence, each piece a surgical strike against their carefully constructed facades. Lisa's audacious theft of their mother's jewelry, pawned for drug money. His parents' ceaseless complaints about his military service, even as they ravenously devoured the funds he provided for their lavish retirement. Every instance of disloyalty, every whispered lie, every entitled assumption that his generosity was their inherent birthright, it was all laid bare. The warehouse was shrouded in a suffocating silence, broken only by the distant hum of ventilation systems and the faint thrum of traffic. Ryan's family stared, transfixed by the undeniable proof of their own greed and betrayal, the full devastating scope of his knowledge finally dawning upon them. "Yesterday," Ryan's voice sliced through the stillness, "you voted me out of this family. You presumed I was weak, that I would meekly accept your decree and fade quietly into divorce and irrelevance. You conveniently forgot that I once hunted people for a living, that I survived 3 combat tours by never underestimating my enemies and never showing mercy to those who betrayed operational security. Ryan rose, walking to the table with a predatory, measured gait. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave this warehouse and never contact me again. You're going to embrace the financial fallout of your choices without legal challenges or public complaints. You are going to vanish from my life as completely as you voted me out of yours. Brenda, her voice a mere whisper, finally managed to speak. And if we refuse? Ryan's smile was chilling, and every soul in that warehouse instinctively recognized the baring of a predator's teeth. Then you'll discover that voting me out was the second worst decision you've ever made. The absolute worst decision will be forcing me to treat you like actual enemies instead of simply disloyal family members. The implications hung in the air, acrid smoke from a distant, raging fire. Ryan Mitchell had spent 22 years building a family, yes, but he had also, with grim foresight, spent those same 22 years preparing for the chilling possibility that his family might one day demand the very same treatment he had once reserved for enemy combatants. The meeting was concluded. The family, in its traditional sense, was shattered. All that remained was the grim determination of whether his former relatives would accept exile or if they would necessitate more permanent solutions to the problem they had so carelessly, so recklessly created. 3 days after the chilling confrontation in the warehouse, Ryan's family made their ultimate fatal miscalculation. Instead of accepting their devastating defeat and fading quietly into the shadows, they chose to escalate. This decision, born of arrogance and a profound underestimation of their adversary, would cost them every last shred of what they had left to lose. Ryan, through Ghost's meticulously woven surveillance network, uncovered their audacious plan. Brenda, Ashley, and Tyler had enlisted the services of Vincent Torres, a notorious criminal attorney known for his ruthlessly aggressive tactics. Their strategy was brutally simple: annihilate Ryan's reputation and business through a coordinated media campaign, then force a crippling financial settlement through relentless public pressure. The first salvo exploded on Tuesday morning. Ashley, a fragile figure on the local news, her face contorted by crocodile tears, spun a harrowing tale of her father's supposed psychological breakdown and his deranged surveillance of his own family. She painted herself as a heartbroken, concerned daughter, desperate to shield her mentally ill father from his own dangerous delusions. Tyler followed with a meticulously crafted social media campaign, posting cunningly edited audio clips that twisted Ryan's irrefutable evidence into the incoherent ravings of an unstable man. The posts detonated, going viral within hours, painting Ryan as a deranged, wealthy tycoon persecuting his innocent, beleaguered family. Brenda, ever the master manipulator, delivered the coup de grace with an interview in the city's largest newspaper, recounting 22 years of marriage to a man she now claimed had always exhibited disturbing signs of paranoia and control. Their divorce, in her narrative, was a courageous escape from an abusive nightmare. By Wednesday evening, the very air outside Mitchell Enterprises headquarters crackled with hostility. Protesters, fueled by the sensationalized media narrative, swarmed the streets. Ryan's construction business, once an unassailable empire, began to hemorrhage contracts as clients recoiled from the association with the unhinged tycoon. Their social media feeds, once vibrant with business, now buzzed with venomous condemnation. Ghost found Ryan in his office, a solitary figure amidst a constellation of monitors displaying the unfolding protests. "Boss," he stated, his voice grave, "they've crossed every line. Your business is taking serious damage. Your reputation's being shredded across every media platform. They're playing for keeps now." Ryan turned from the screens, his expression unnervingly calm. How long until the damage becomes permanent? Maybe a week. After that, the narrative becomes truth, regardless of evidence. Your family's playing this perfectly. They look like victims. You look like a wealthy man persecuting them out of spite. "Ghost," Ryan commanded, his voice a chilling whisper. "Activate Protocol Omega." The words hung heavy in the air, a silent death sentence. Protocol Omega, their ultimate contingency, a code for complete absolute destruction. the total elimination of targets by any means necessary. It was the protocol they had meticulously planned, yet desperately hoped to never unleash. Boss, Ghost's voice was barely audible. Are you certain? Protocol Omega is irreversible. There's no walking this back. They chose this escalation, Ryan stated, his gaze unyielding. They decided to destroy my life's work rather than accept the consequences of their betrayal. I gave them the opportunity to walk away. They chose war instead. Ghost nodded slowly, the grim understanding etched on his face. I'll need 48 hours to position assets. After that, it's total warfare. Understood. And Ghost, make sure Linda Garrison and her children remain protected. She's innocent in this. Thursday morning brought a fresh wave of calculated attacks designed to obliterate Ryan's credibility. Tyler released further edited surveillance footage, manipulating it to portray Ryan as a deranged stalker. Ashley, with breathtaking audacity, posted falsified hospital records, claiming her father had coerced her into psychological counseling to conceal his abusive behavior. Ryan's phone became a relentless tormentor, a cacophony of reporters seeking sensational quotes, business partners demanding frantic explanations, and lawyers like vultures circling with offers of representation against his unstable family. He ignored them all, his focus unwavering on the grim preparations for Protocol Omega. At 3 p.m., Marcus King, his face etched with urgency, arrived at Ryan's office. Ryan, they've filed for emergency restraining orders. They're claiming you're an immediate physical threat. The hearing is tomorrow morning. Let them have their hearing, Ryan dismissed, his voice devoid of concern. It won't matter after tonight. What happens tonight? Marcus pressed, a knot of dread tightening in his stomach. Ryan handed Marcus a sealed envelope. If I don't contact you by noon tomorrow, deliver this to Detective Hutchinson. It contains complete evidence of every crime my family has committed, along with the detailed instructions for prosecuting them. Consider it my insurance policy. Marcus studied Ryan's face, a chilling familiarity washing over him. It was the same expression he'd seen during their military days. Ryan, whatever you're planning. I'm not planning anything, Marcus. I'm simply responding to their escalation with appropriate force. They chose to make this a public war. Now they'll learn what war actually means. That evening, Ryan rendezvoused with Ghost at a secure, undisclosed location outside the city. The warehouse, now a hive of lethal precision, was filled with equipment and personnel from Ryan's past life. Men who had served with him in Afghanistan, men who understood that some battles could only be won through superior, overwhelming violence. The targets are dispersed tonight, Ghost reported, his voice flat. Tyler's at his apartment, Ashley's staying with Cole at his place, Brenda's at her sister's house, Kevin's at his usual bar, Lisa's at her boyfriend's place, your parents are home. Collateral damage minimized. We've confirmed locations of innocence and planned accordingly. Cole Rhodes is not considered innocent, Ryan stated, his gaze fixed on the tactical display that showed his family's locations. He's been making threats against you all week. 22 years of marriage, parenthood, and family obligations had, in a twisted way, taught him to love these people, despite their profound flaws. But 22 years of relentless military training had instilled a more fundamental, brutal truth. When enemies threaten your mission, you eliminate the threat. Execute Protocol Omega at 2 a.m. Make it look like accidents and coincidences. No evidence pointing back to us. And Ghost. Yes, boss. Make sure they understand, in their final moments, exactly why this happened. I want them to know their choices led to this outcome. Ghost nodded, a chilling affirmation, and began issuing orders to his team. Men in black tactical gear moved with practiced silent efficiency, loading vehicles and meticulously checking equipment. They were Ryan's grim insurance policy from his military days, soldiers who had followed him through hell and remained fiercely loyal to him in civilian life. Ryan walked outside and looked up at the vast, indifferent expanse of stars, a memory surfacing from years past. His father, an old man then, had once asked him what he had truly learned in the military. Ryan had answered with stark honesty, I learned that some people will only respect you after you've proven you're willing to destroy them. Tomorrow, his family would understand that lesson completely. Protocol Omega was in motion, and Ryan Mitchell never failed to complete his missions. At 2:17 a.m., Tyler Mitchell was found dead in his apartment, an apparent heroin overdose. The needle, a grim punctuation mark, remained in his arm, and the drugs of an unsettling purity hinted at either incredible, fatal bad luck or a chillingly deliberate intention. Security cameras, a testament to the night's uncanny coincidences, had mysteriously malfunctioned for a crucial 3-hour window around the time of death. At 2:31 a.m., Kevin Mitchell's rusted pickup truck, a monument to his perpetual recklessness, careened off a deserted stretch of highway outside the city. The accident, deemed a tragic consequence of his blood alcohol level, a staggering 3 times the legal limit, involved no other vehicles, though faint tire marks suggested he had swerved to avoid an unseen phantom obstruction in the road. At 2:45 a.m., Lisa Mitchell and her boyfriend, Snake, met their fiery end when their dilapidated trailer exploded. Investigators with grim certainty would later attribute it to a catastrophic methamphetamine lab accident. The explosion, consistent with amateur drug manufacturing, coupled with the presence of illicit substances in both victims' systems, strongly supported the theory of reckless chemistry. At 2:52 a.m., Cole Rhodes vanished from his apartment, leaving behind only ominous bloodstains and undeniable evidence of a violent struggle. Ashley Mitchell, who had been staying with him, was found bound and gagged in the closet, traumatized but physically unharmed. She stammered a terrifying tale of masked men who had broken in, seized Cole, and delivered a chilling message for her father. Ryan received the first phone call at 3:15 a.m. Ashley's voice, a mere shred of sound, was barely coherent through her ragged sobs. "Daddy, they took Cole. They said this was just the beginning. They said you'd understand." The second call arrived at 3:47 a.m. Detective Hutchinson's voice strained with raw disbelief. "Ryan, I need you downtown. There's been multiple incidents involving your family. You need to get here now." The third call came at 4:12 a.m. from the hospital. Ryan's parents had suffered simultaneous heart attacks, a medical coincidence so impossibly precise it defied logic, until doctors discovered they had both consumed massive, unprescribed doses of a heart medication. Ryan dressed slowly, his movements deliberate and unnervingly calm. Ghost's team had executed Protocol Omega with surgical precision, eliminating threats while meticulously maintaining plausible deniability. The message, delivered with brutal clarity, was undeniable. Crossing Ryan Mitchell carried consequences that extended far beyond mere financial or legal warfare. At the police station, Detective Hutchinson looked like a man who had aged 10 years in 4 hours. "Ryan, what the hell is happening to your family? 3 deaths, 1 disappearance, 2 heart attacks, and your daughter claiming masked men broke into her boyfriend's apartment. This isn't coincidence, Ryan." "My family's been under stress lately," Ryan replied, his voice flat. "Sometimes stress reveals people's true nature and leads them to make fatal decisions." "Don't you dare, Ryan. I've known you for 15 years. This level of carnage doesn't happen naturally." Ryan leaned forward, his voice dropping to the low, guttural tone he reserved for captured insurgents. "Hutch, my family declared war on me, publicly. They tried to destroy my reputation, my business, and my life through coordinated media attacks. I defended myself, using resources they didn't know I possessed. The fact that their escalation resulted in casualties isn't my responsibility." "You're talking about your children, Ryan, your brother, your parents. I'm talking about people who chose to be my enemies. The fact that they were once family members doesn't grant them immunity from the consequences of their choices." Hutchinson stared across the table, finally recognizing something in Ryan's eyes that had never been there before. The cold, unfeeling calculation of a man who had not only crossed lines but had obliterated them entirely. At 6 a.m., Ryan was released, uncharged. The evidence was circumstantial, and the deaths, for all their horrifying synchronicity, appeared unrelated, save for their timing. As he walked through the police station, Ryan observed how officers instinctively parted, their eyes meticulously avoiding direct contact. Good. Fear was useful. Outside the station, Brenda awaited him by his truck, her face hollowed by grief and stark terror. She looked as though she had aged 20 years overnight. "Ryan, please, I know you did this. I know you killed them. But Ashley's still alive, and she's the only family either of us has left. Please don't hurt her." Ryan studied his wife's face, seeing her clearly, perhaps for the very first time in 22 years. She had once been beautiful, before greed and entitlement had gnawed at her features. Now she looked precisely what she had always been beneath the veneer, a predator who had finally encountered a superior, more ruthless one. "Brenda," Ryan's voice was a chilling whisper, "I didn't kill anyone, but I will tell you this. Ashley is alive because she's young enough to learn from this experience. If she chooses to continue the pattern of betrayal that destroyed the rest of our family, she'll discover that my patience has limits." "She's 20 years old, Ryan. She's just a child." "She's old enough to fund assassination attempts against her father. She's old enough to participate in drug trafficking. She's old enough to face the consequences of her choices." Ryan climbed into his truck and started the engine. Through the windshield, he could see Brenda, a solitary, weeping figure in the parking lot, mourning family members who had died because they had tragically forgotten that the man who had provided for them had once been trained to eliminate threats to operational security. As he drove away, Ryan's phone buzzed. A text from Ghost. "Phase 2 complete. All primary targets neutralized. Secondary target contained and educated. Cole Rhodes will not be returning to bother anyone." Ryan deleted the message without a flicker of emotion and drove toward his office. Mitchell Enterprises still stood, a testament to his resilience, though its reputation would require meticulous rebuilding. The media narrative, once a frenzied assault, would shift now. Instead of a story about a paranoid businessman persecuting his family, it would become a tragedy about a successful man whose family's criminal activities had, through a series of tragic coincidences, led to their own self-destruction. By noon, Ashley would be safely in protective custody, claiming she had never truly understood her boyfriend's criminal activities, that she had been manipulated by the very family members who had turned against her father. The media would eventually portray her as the sole tragic survivor of a family whose insatiable greed and criminal behavior had inexorably led to their own downfall. It wasn't the truth, not entirely, but it was the story that would endure in the public record. Ryan Mitchell had won his war, but the victory tasted like ashes and blood. His family was gone, annihilated by their own choices and his superior, brutal understanding of how wars were truly won. All that remained was deciding what to build from the desolate ruins. 6 months later, Ryan Mitchell stood in the penthouse office of his rebuilt empire, surveying a city that had learned to fear and respect his name in equal measure. Mitchell Enterprises had not merely survived the scandalous implosion of his family, it had emerged stronger, its reputation transformed from a successful construction company to a business run by a man who would, unequivocally, do anything to protect his interests. The official story had transcended mere news, morphing into a local legend. A successful businessman whose family's descent into crime and betrayal had, through a series of chillingly tragic coincidences, led to their own annihilation. Ryan, in this narrative, was the stoic survivor, the man who had desperately tried to save those who could not be saved from their own self-destructive impulses. Ashley, for her part, had meticulously honored her end of the bargain. She testified that her father had indeed tried to warn the family about their dangerous associates, that he had attempted interventions that were defiantly rejected, and that she alone had heeded his warnings in time to save herself. She had vanished, relocating to Seattle, adopting a new identity and beginning a new life, funded by a trust fund meticulously designed to ensure her absolute silence about her family's true horrific fate. Linda Garrison had filed for divorce and in time remarried a good man in Oklahoma. Ryan anonymously had provided her with the irrefutable evidence that secured her every claim in the settlement, along with life insurance payouts that guaranteed her children's futures. Every year, a simple Christmas card arrived, bearing a single profound message. "Thank you for the warning." Ghost, his grim work done, had disbanded his team after Protocol Omega, most of the operators dissolving into deep cover identities across the globe. He remained as Ryan's security chief, though both men understood their relationship had fundamentally shifted. They were no longer soldier and commander. They were partners in a conspiracy that could never be discussed, never acknowledged, never repeated. Marcus King had, without hesitation, burned the sealed envelope, a silent testament to his understanding that some knowledge was simply too dangerous to possess. He continued as Ryan's attorney, but their friendship, a casualty of that fateful night, had ended. Some lines once crossed irrevocably redefined all relationships. The business, like a phoenix, had not only risen but had grown exponentially. Other companies, drawn by an unspoken understanding, now actively sought out Mitchell Enterprises, not merely for their construction expertise, but for the implicit, terrifying guarantee that Ryan Mitchell was a man who could solve problems other contractors couldn't handle. Contracts arrived with the silent promise that obstacles, regulatory, financial, or intensely personal, would be eliminated with surgical, uncompromising precision. Ryan's reputation in the business community was whispered rather than spoken aloud. He was known as a man who honored agreements absolutely, protected his allies unconditionally, and eliminated threats with extreme prejudice. The few foolish souls who dared to test these principles discovered them to be terrifyingly accurate. At 4 p.m. on the anniversary of that fateful Labor Day barbecue, Ryan opened a bottle of 30-year-old Macallan and poured himself 3 fingers. He raised the glass in a silent, chilling toast to the empty office. "To family," he said aloud, his voice echoing in the silence, "and to the lessons they taught me about loyalty." The bitter irony was not lost on him. His family had voted him out, believing him weak and expendable. Instead, they had inadvertently freed him to become precisely what his military training had always prepared him to be: a man unencumbered by sentiment, unrestrained by conventional morality, and unlimited in his chilling willingness to protect his interests through superior violence. His secure phone buzzed, a new message from Ghost. "New contract inquiry. Fortune 500 CEO with a board revolt problem. Wants to discuss permanent solutions. Interested." Ryan smiled, a predatory gleam in his eyes as he typed his response. "Schedule the meeting." The construction business had been profitable, yes, but the consulting business was proving far more lucrative. Wealthy men facing betrayal by business partners, family members, or supposed allies were willing to pay extraordinary sums for Ryan's unique, brutal problem-solving expertise. He had, in the ruins of his old life, discovered a new, chilling calling. As sunset bled across the sky, Ryan walked to his office safe and removed a single photograph, the last picture taken of his complete family, captured at Tyler's high school graduation. They all looked happy, successful, unified. It was a beautiful lie, one that had endured for precisely 6 years before reality had ripped away its fragile facade. He studied each face, remembering who they had been before greed and betrayal had corrupted them. Tyler with his genuine musical talent, Ashley with her quick, sharp intelligence, Brenda with her meticulous organizational skills. Even Kevin and Lisa had possessed qualities that, in different circumstances, might have been admirable. But they had all made the same fundamental, catastrophic error. They had mistaken Ryan's generosity for weakness, his love for vulnerability, his patience for submission. They had voted him out, believing he would meekly accept their decision and fade quietly into irrelevance. Instead, they had discovered that Ryan Mitchell had always been exactly what his military record indicated: a man trained to eliminate threats to mission objectives with absolute ruthlessness and surgical precision. Ryan locked the photograph back in the safe and returned to his desk. Tomorrow would bring new contracts, new problems requiring permanent solutions, new clients who needed to understand that some people were simply too dangerous to betray. He had built his first fortune by constructing buildings that would stand for generations. Now he was building his second fortune by deconstructing problems that could not be solved through conventional means. The family barbecue had been the last day of his old life and the first day of his new empire. His relatives had voted him out, but they had, in a cruel twist of fate, voted him directly into what he had always been destined to become: Ryan Mitchell, a man who never forgave, never forgot, and never failed to complete his missions. The city lights sparkled below like stars in a conquered sky, and Ryan raised his glass one final time. Not to mourn what he had lost, but to celebrate what he had gained: freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, since you've listened to the end of this story, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments which state you're watching from. Let's see what percentage of elite viewers make it to the end. And please kindly turn your attention to the screen after this message. There you'll find a full playlist of thrilling stories, a subscribe button for the channel, and our most captivating story. Click, enjoy, and thank you.